I still remember the moment that when I realized that I had to level up my fatherhood. I was holding my newborn daughter for the first time and actually smoothly fussed the physical reminders for her obvious needs. I was prepared to take care of those. What I wasn't prepared to do, and what was slowly dawning on me, was that I had absolutely no training or preparation to help her grow into a woman. Most dad and daughter books assume a working father. As a stay at home dad, that wasn't going to work for me. And those books, they actually end up treating daughters like feminine sons. They don't actually get to the heart of our daughters. While my wife and daughter were still at the hospital, I left to go back to our house to finish building her actual room. What I didn't realize was I was about to start building something far deeper and far more meaningful, my interior life. Hello, my name is Jacob Pinnell, and this is Faithful Fatherhood. If you're just joining me, I've been using St. Teresa of Avila's The Interior Castle as a lens for us to view the interior life of our fatherhood. Now, she imagines the interior castle as the interior life, or the soul, as a crystal castle with 7 concentric mansions. Last week, we talked about Mansion 1, the reptilian brain. Well, that's where we have instinct and threat assessment. It's largely reactive, but it is key to our survival. It's where a lot of our hunger and other needs kind of fly through and flow through. Mansion 2, that's what we're going to be talking about this week, is where reason wakes up. The cortex comes online. Now, if you're not familiar with that anatomical term, the cortex is generally what we think of when we hear the word brain. It's the stuff all the way at the top up here. It's also where meaning making begins. Meaning making is really important to our survival as well, because it's so deeply tied to memory. Now, this memory then becomes our picture of reality. So, with the reptilian brain is just focused on survival. The meaning making goes beyond survival into giving us a picture of our reality. It's how we actually process the world. This is where our fatherhood gets built, or doesn't. Now, St. Teresa opens us up to this idea that maybe you're already thinking about. In Mansion 1, you kind of didn't know what you didn't know, and you got to blissfully live on instinct. For much of my son's life, I had already read all the books for him. And whether I was a working father or a stay-at-home father, it didn't actually matter. I was able to still parent him on instinct. In Mansion 2, I could see the gap between who I was and who I wanted to be. St. Teresa actually points out that sometimes those of us living in Mansion 2 actually suffer more than those of us living in Mansion 1, because now we can see and hear what we couldn't before. And something is going to rush to fill that gap. For St. Teresa, she coaches us to keep going on into Mansion 3, keep growing closer to God, follow our reason, work our way towards deepening interior life. Sometimes, though, the poisonous reptiles rush to fill in the gap. And that's sometimes what actually causes us the most pain, because that's not who we want to be anymore. So, what does that gap sound like? It might sound like you're scrolling at midnight, subtly feeling worse. I've been there too. The scripts you were handed no longer fit the father you're becoming. You know the old frameworks aren't enough, but you don't have anything to replace them with. That's one of the reasons for this whole series, is to help us all build a new framework for our interior life rather than our exterior one. Now, one of the things we've been bringing in on this series is the algorithm or the manosphere as well. And the algorithm also constructs a picture of reality. So remember, our cortex is designed to help us make meaning, which creates a picture of reality. The algorithm also constructs a picture of reality. It learns what makes you pause, angry, seen. Do you see how it's starting to filter in those reptiles back there? It feeds you more until the picture feels like the actual world. I saw a Facebook post the other day. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it seemed true. Someone doing research on AI created a fake medical paper and uploaded it to AI as if it were true. Well, across various different artificial intelligences, the large language models, that paper got cited several thousand times, prompting actual doctors in the real world to have to field calls on a fake medical condition because that fake medical condition seemed convincing enough to AI. So, what I'm trying to get you to see here is AI was actually shaping our perceived reality of the world. The algorithm that you're using to scroll through Facebook, Instagram, your Google News feed, that's shaping your reality. It's filling in the gap between your reptilian brain and your cortex, and it's trying to help you make meaning or help it make meaning for you. Why? So it can sell you something. So it can tell you a story that's going to inscribe a reality. Now, let's tie that into the manosphere, which is something that's really growing right now. The manosphere is not offering truth about masculinity. It's offering a picture based on resentment, scarcity, and performance. It finds those of us who are living in Mansion 2, who've moved beyond the reptilian brain, which is most of us, and it feels that gap that has no language for it, and it feeds it. It serves us a ready-made identity requiring zero interior work. That's why we're reading The Interior Castle, to give you some tools to work on your interior life. The manosphere does something like this. It teaches us to go back to our instincts, assert our dominance. It teaches us the way it's always been is the way it should be. Teresa calls it out for what it is. Sometimes the enemy uses the most reasonable sounding arguments. They borrow the language of something called natural law. Natural law is something that is perhaps most easily understood when we say this kind of sentence or they have this sentiment. It's always been this way, therefore it must be true. So if you kind of, it's always been this way, therefore it must be true. That's kind of the idea of natural law, or this is only natural. When we get that kind of sentiment in us, that's called natural law. But here's what Saint Teresa would notice. That's not actually reason. That's a counterfeit of reason. In the second mansion, Saint Teresa says reason is actually on your side. Reason is the voice that convinces the soul that outside the castle, there's neither peace nor security. Reason is calling you deeper. What the manosphere does is hijack that rational capacity and fill it with worldly habits dressed up as common sense. It's the cortex calcifying around the first comfortable picture it found, not because reason failed you, but because something got to it first. St. Teresa's theology was shaped by St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas was rather famous for fusing Aristotle's natural law. So way back in Greek philosophy times, Aristotle was the first person to come up with natural law, with Plato's kind of divine vision. Those two things were found in Christianity and perhaps have been most harmonized in St. Thomas Aquinas's Summa Theologica. It's one of the greatest feats of human reasoning ever, and it's really long. So if you go look it up, you have been warned. And St. Teresa had been shaped by it. but she also began to encounter some of its limits in her own work. Natural law is the idea that reality has a moral and rational structure built into the nature of things. And that's not wrong. Reason really is the gift of Mansion 2. St. Teresa says reason is what shows the soul that worldly things are an illusion, that there's no place outside the castle. Reason is pulling you further in, but here's the temptation. Once reason wakes up, we want to use it to skip ahead, find the formula, map out the right steps, download the framework, and get to the finish line as easy as possible. And St. Teresa says no. There's no Kabbalistic formula, no technique, no shortcut. You know what she's actually targeting? Beginners who want the sweetness of the end without walking through the suffering first. There's no spell that you can do that bypasses the suffering. Our whole welfare, she writes, consists in doing the will of God, not in finding the right system, not in perfecting the right steps, in submitting to a process that reason alone can't complete, even though reason is what got you into Mansion 2. It won't get you through the rest of the castle. For St. Teresa, life can't be hacked. So there's no formula, no technique, and no shortcut. You have to explore the mansions. In our AI or algorithm crazy world, we're drowning in frameworks for development, for marriage, for health, for masculinity. We're looks maxing, or we're tech maxing, or we're doing some sort of maxing with our lives. They all share one temptation. They want us to manufacture the interior life in advance, but it's just scaffolding for our exterior. And the worst part is it actually hijacks our natural brain's tendency to reason, because our brain can reason its way anywhere. That's its gift, but it's also what they're hijacking. You see these books right here? These are just some of the parenting books that I've read. And I've read, my wife will tell you, I've read many more than that on Kindle, in real paperback books. What I was doing was accumulating information. But that can't be substituted for an actual interior movement. The limit of Mansion 2 is living by natural law alone, by what has always been, by what the algorithm confirms. Moving through Mansion 2 means realizing that you can't live with a tight fist. A tight fist is how we live when we're working or with reptiles. We have to live with an open hand. The open hand is not so that it becomes empty or falls away. It's so that we can become ready to receive what we can't manufacture. Sometimes my daughter, who is so wonderful, cuts right through the performance that sometimes I am inclined to give her from reading all of these books. And she demands the most real version of me. Right now, the way she does that is by passing me notes. So when we're having a problem, and it's a little bit both our fault, but I'm the adult, so I should be more in control of my emotions. What we end up doing is communicating by passing a piece of paper under her door and writing out how we both feel and talking about it. What this does is it activates us into Mansion 2, past from Mansion 1, and moves us along through Mansion 2 towards what we actually believe. That's how we actually get to love. Don't you just want to love your kids? Sometimes it's hard. Don't get me wrong. We were just fighting. But she challenges me to grow beyond that, to move through Mansion 2. My son works with the version of me I present because I'm able to teach him and grow with him on almost instinct alone. My daughter is in constant conversation with the version of me that I actually am. She doesn't need dominance. She needs presence. She doesn't need answers. She needs honesty about me not having them. She needs me to build something real on the inside of myself so that I can help her build something real on the inside of herself. It's not a performance, it's actual strength, actual foundation, something that holds when she tests it. And she does test it. Oh, does she test it all the time? St. Teresa offers us this couple of quotes here in Mansion 2. She describes Mansion 2 as a fierce war, and she demands that the beginner of Mansion 2 be valiant and resolved to go forth. This is actually a fighter's path, but the war and the technique of prayer are two different things. They're not to be gained by force of arms, but with calmness. What she means is that when we're living in Mansion 2, when your mind wanders in prayer, draw it back gently. That's a note on mental discipline, not a note on the battle itself. The battle itself is fear, but the presence within the battle can be calm. And I want you to notice her choice of words there. Valiant. Valiant is something that we often lose today because we're so often battling for glory. Glory is something that makes us look good on the outside. Valor is an inner courage and strength. Go back and read the ancient Greek epics, and you'll see that when the word valor is used, these were men of value. The fierceness goes into the war. The calmness gets given to my daughter. When I go back to that day that I was at home, finishing up that room, we were getting the I was getting the messy drywall, one last coat to get it nice and smooth for the painters to come through. And as the dust rained down on me from sanding yet another poorly placed bit of mud, I just thought about the construction that actually matters. I was trying to build something that my daughter can actually inherit. What I didn't understand on that day, but do understand now, is the only thing she inherits from me is the actual quality of the interior life I built now while she grew up. Those instincts that we had from Mansion 2 still matter, but she's not reducible to any script you came with. And she forces me to go further into the castle, whether I want to go or not. So if you want Mansion 2 in one quick summary, stop reacting, start reasoning. St. Teresa notes that there's a call from the interior and that those in Mansion 2 can hear it. So follow that call. Begin the long, glamorous work of following it. Chase valor, not glory. You're chasing it not with a formula and not with a persona you've built up for the internet. You're just following the call into a deeper life. Be valiant in war, calm in present, and willing to go further in. What does Mansion 2 look like in your life right now? My name is Jacob Pennell, and this is Faithful Fatherhood.